Texas is overhauling how it enforces traffic laws, and millions of drivers have no idea what's coming. If you're driving in Texas in 2026, you need to know that stricter enforcement means higher fines, faster license suspensions, and new ways to lose your vehicle without warning. We're talking about penalties that can reach thousands of dollars, insurance rates that double overnight, and laws that put immigrant drivers at serious legal risk. This affects renters too, because landlords are checking driving records before approving applications. What I'm about to break down could save you from losing your license, your car, or your housing. Pay close attention. Number one, Texas point system suspends licenses faster than most drivers realize. Texas operates under a point system managed by the Department of Public Safety under Texas Transportation Code Section 708.052. And understanding how it works is critical because points accumulate quickly and lead to automatic license suspension. When you commit a moving violation in Texas, points are assigned to your driving record. A conviction for a moving violation results in 2 points, while a conviction for a moving violation that results in a crash adds 3 points to your record. If you accumulate 6 or more points within 3 years, you face administrative penalties and possible license suspension. The Texas Department of Public Safety assesses these points automatically when courts report convictions, so there's no discretion or warning system before consequences hit. What catches most drivers off guard is how ordinary violations add up. If you get pulled over for speeding and receive a citation, that's 2 points once you're convicted. If a few months later you roll through a stop sign and get cited, that's another 2 points. If either of those violations involved an accident, it's 3 points instead of 2. Within a single year, you could easily hit the 6-point threshold without committing any serious offenses. The consequences of hitting 6 points include potential suspension of your driving privileges, and you'll receive notices from DPS about your point accumulation. For drivers under 21 years old, the rules are even stricter. If a driver under 21 accumulates 4 or more points in a 12-month period, or 7 or more points total before turning 21, their license is automatically suspended. The suspension can last from 30 days to 1 year, depending on the circumstances. During suspension, driving is illegal, and if you're caught driving on a suspended license, you face criminal charges under Texas Transportation Code Section 521.457, which is a Class C misdemeanor for a first offense, but escalates to Class B or Class A misdemeanor for subsequent offenses, carrying potential jail time up to 1 year and fines up to $4,000. Number two, Texas vehicle inspection requirements create hidden costs and legal traps. Texas Transportation Code Section 548.051 requires annual safety inspections for most vehicles registered in Texas, and Section 548.052 requires emissions testing for vehicles registered in certain counties. If your vehicle fails inspection, you cannot legally drive it on Texas roads until repairs are made and the vehicle passes re-inspection. The inspection itself costs between $7 and $25, depending on the type of inspection required. But the real cost comes when your vehicle fails. Common failure points include worn brake pads, cracked windshields, faulty lights, worn tires, or emission system problems. Repairing these issues can cost anywhere from $200 to over $2,000, depending on what needs fixing. If you can't afford repairs immediately, your vehicle remains uninspected, which means you're driving illegally. Operating a vehicle without a current inspection sticker is a violation of Texas Transportation Code Section 548.603, and the penalty is a fine of up to $250. But the consequences go beyond the fine. If you're pulled over for an expired inspection and the officer discovers additional issues like expired registration or no insurance, you're facing multiple citations and potential vehicle impoundment. For low-income drivers, this creates an impossible trap. You need your vehicle to get to work, but you can't afford the repairs to pass inspection. If you drive without inspection and get caught, you pay fines that make it even harder to afford repairs. Some drivers resort to using fake inspection stickers purchased illegally, but if caught, this is a Class B misdemeanor under Texas Transportation Code Section 548.603, punishable by up to 180 days in jail and fines up to $2,000. The inspection requirement also affects vehicle sales because you cannot complete a vehicle registration transfer without proof of current inspection, which means used car buyers often discover unexpected repair costs after agreeing to purchase. Number three, driving without insurance in Texas triggers immediate consequences. Texas Transportation Code Section 601.051 requires all drivers to maintain minimum liability insurance coverage, specifically $30,000 for bodily injury per person, $60,000 for bodily injury per accident, and $25,000 for property damage. If you're caught driving without insurance, the penalties are severe and immediate. For a first offense, you face a fine of up to $350. Your vehicle can be impounded, and you'll pay impound fees that typically run $200 to $300, plus daily storage fees of $25 to $50 per day. To get your vehicle released, you must provide proof of insurance and pay all fees. But the financial pain doesn't stop there. Under Texas Transportation Code Section 601.371, if you're convicted of driving without insurance, the Department of Public Safety will suspend your driver's license and vehicle registration. To get your license and registration reinstated, you must file an SR-22 form, which is a certificate of financial responsibility that proves you're carrying insurance. Getting SR-22 insurance is significantly more expensive than standard insurance because you're classified as a high-risk driver. Your premiums can double or triple, and you must maintain SR-22 coverage for 2 years. If your insurance lapses at any point during those 2 years, the insurance company notifies DPS, and your license is immediately suspended again. For many low-income Texans, this creates a devastating cycle. They can't afford insurance, get caught driving without it, lose their license, can't get to work, lose income, and fall further behind financially. The requirement to carry insurance is absolute, with very few exceptions, and law enforcement officers can verify insurance status instantly through electronic databases. So there's no way to claim you forgot your insurance card at home. Number 4, Texas Move Over Slow Down law carries heavy fines and point penalties. Texas Transportation Code Section 545.157 requires drivers to move over or slow down when approaching stationary emergency vehicles, including police cars, fire trucks, ambulances, tow trucks, and Texas Department of Transportation vehicles displaying flashing lights. If you're driving on a highway with multiple lanes and you see an emergency vehicle stopped on the shoulder, you must either vacate the lane closest to the emergency vehicle, if it's safe to do so, or slow down to 20 miles per hour below the posted speed limit. If the posted speed limit is below 25 miles per hour, you must slow down to 5 miles per hour. Violations of the Move Over Slow Down law result in a fine of up to $200 for a first offense. However, if your failure to move over or slow down results in property damage, the fine increases to up to $500. If your violation causes bodily injury to another person, it's a Class B misdemeanor, punishable by up to 180 days in jail and fines up to $2,000. If your violation results in the death of another person, it becomes a Class A misdemeanor with penalties up to 1 year in jail and fines up to $4,000. Beyond criminal penalties, violating the Move Over Slow Down law adds points to your driving record, which contributes to license suspension if you accumulate too many points. Insurance companies also view these violations seriously because they involve potential harm to emergency responders and other vulnerable road users. Your insurance rates can increase by 20 to 35% for a single move-over violation, and that increase typically remains in effect for 3 to 5 years. Texas law enforcement agencies have made move-over enforcement a priority, particularly after several incidents where police officers and emergency responders were struck and killed by passing vehicles. Officers actively watch for drivers who fail to move over or slow down, and they issue citations aggressively. Number 5, texting while driving is now a primary offense with escalating penalties. As of September 1st, 2017, Texas Transportation Code Section 545.4251 prohibits drivers from using a handheld device to read, write, or send electronic messages while operating a vehicle. This is a primary offense, meaning law enforcement can pull you over solely for texting while driving without needing to observe any other violation. For a first offense, the fine is between $25 and $99. For repeat offenses, the fine increases to $100 to $200. However, if texting while driving causes serious bodily injury or death, the offense becomes a Class A misdemeanor, punishable by up to 1 year in jail and fines up to $4,000. The practical enforcement of this law is more aggressive than many drivers expect. Officers are trained to recognize texting behavior by observing driving patterns such as weaving between lanes, delayed reactions to traffic signals, and inconsistent speed. Once pulled over, officers may ask to see your phone to confirm you were texting, And while you can refuse, that refusal can be used against you in court. The law does have some exceptions. You can use your phone in hands-free mode for GPS navigation or to make phone calls. And you can use your phone while stopped at a red light or stop sign as long as your vehicle is not moving. You can also use your phone to report illegal activity or summon emergency help. But any handheld texting, email reading, or social media browsing while the vehicle is in motion is prohibited. For young drivers under 18, the restrictions are even tighter. Texas Transportation Code Section 545.424 prohibits drivers under 18 from using any wireless communication device while operating a vehicle, even in hands-free mode, except in emergencies. The insurance impact of a texting while driving conviction can be substantial because insurance companies classify distracted driving as high-risk behavior that increases accident likelihood. Number 6, license suspension for unpaid traffic tickets creates legal nightmares. Texas Transportation Code Section 706.002 authorizes the Department of Public Safety to deny renewal of a driver's license if the person has failed to appear for a traffic citation or failed to pay a fine for a traffic violation. This law has been modified in recent years, but the consequences for unpaid tickets remain severe. If you receive a traffic citation and fail to appear in court or fail to pay the fine by the deadline, the court reports this to DPS. DPS then places a hold on your driver's license, which means you cannot renew your license until you resolve the outstanding ticket. If you're driving with an expired license because you couldn't renew it due to unpaid tickets, you're violating Texas Transportation Code Section 521.021, which makes driving without a valid license a Class C misdemeanor punishable by a fine up to $200. For subsequent offenses, or if you've never been licensed, the penalties escalate to Class B misdemeanor with potential jail time. The financial trap here is obvious. You got a traffic ticket, couldn't afford to pay it, and now your license has a hold. You continue driving because you need to get to work, but if you're pulled over for any reason, you're cited for driving with an expired license, which adds another fine you can't pay. The cycle continues until you're facing multiple unpaid citations, potential arrest warrants, and increasing financial burden. Some Texas courts offer payment plans or community service options in lieu of fines, but you must proactively contact the court and request these alternatives. Simply ignoring the ticket guarantees that DPS will place a hold on your license. For immigrants, driving with an expired or suspended license creates additional risk because any interaction with law enforcement can trigger immigration enforcement, particularly in jurisdictions that cooperate with federal authorities. Number 7, Texas Property Code allows rapid evictions that leave tenants homeless. While this script focuses primarily on traffic laws, the connection between driving violations and housing is significant because many Texas landlords now check driving records as part of tenant screening. But the eviction process itself in Texas is designed to move quickly in favor of landlords. Texas Property Code Section 24.005 requires landlords to give tenants written notice before filing an eviction lawsuit. For non-payment of rent, the notice period is only 3 days. The notice must demand payment of rent or possession of the property. If the tenant doesn't pay within 3 days, the landlord can immediately file an eviction lawsuit in justice court. Once the lawsuit is filed, the tenant receives a citation to appear in court, typically within 10 to 14 days. If the tenant doesn't appear or doesn't have a valid legal defense, the landlord wins by default and receives a judgment for possession. After the judgment, tenants have 5 days to vacate voluntarily. If they don't leave, the landlord can request a writ of possession and the constable physically removes the tenant and their belongings. From initial notice to forced removal can be as little as 3 weeks. Texas law provides very few defenses for tenants who haven't paid rent. Unlike some states, Texas doesn't allow tenants to withhold rent for habitability issues except in very limited circumstances. If your landlord fails to make repairs, your remedy is to follow specific procedures under Texas Property Code Section 92.0561, which requires written notice and allows you to repair and deduct or terminate the lease. But you cannot simply stop paying rent. The speed of Texas evictions creates housing instability for families who experience unexpected financial emergencies. A single missed rent payment due to medical bills or car repairs can start an eviction process that moves too fast for most tenants to recover. And once you have an eviction on your record, future landlords can see it during background checks and will likely deny your application. Number 8, security deposit disputes in Texas favor landlords without clear documentation. Texas Property Code Section 92.103 governs security deposits and requires landlords to return deposits within 30 days of the tenant moving out, along with an itemized list of any deductions. If the landlord fails to return the deposit or provide an itemized list within 30 days, the landlord forfeits the right to withhold any portion of the deposit and may be liable for the full deposit amount plus $100. And if a landlord acted in bad faith, up to 3 times the deposit amount plus attorney's fees. However, enforcing these rights requires tenants to take legal action, which most don't do because the amounts involved are typically $500 to $1,500, and hiring an attorney costs more than that. Small claims court is an option, but it requires filing fees, time off work for court appearances, and knowledge of legal procedures. What landlords often do is make deductions for damage beyond normal wear and tear, cleaning fees, or unpaid utilities, and many of these deductions are inflated or unjustified. For example, a landlord might charge $800 to replace carpet that was already worn when the tenant moved in, claiming the tenant caused excessive damage. Unless the tenant documented the carpet's condition with photos at move-in, there's no way to dispute the claim effectively. Texas law doesn't clearly define what constitutes normal wear and tear versus damage, which gives landlords significant leeway in making deductions. The practical advice for tenants is to take extensive photos and videos of the entire property before moving in and again when moving out, and to communicate with landlords in writing about any damage or issues during the tenancy. But even with documentation, disputing security deposit deductions requires time and effort that many people can't afford to invest. Number 9, SB 4 in Texas immigration enforcement puts drivers at risk during traffic stops. Texas Senate Bill 4, passed in 2017 and codified in various sections of Texas law, prohibits Texas cities and counties from adopting policies that limit cooperation with federal immigration enforcement. The law requires local law enforcement agencies to comply with immigration detainer requests from U.S. Immigration Customs Enforcement and allows law enforcement officers to inquire about the immigration status of people they lawfully detain or arrest. For drivers, this means any traffic stop can potentially lead to immigration enforcement. If you're pulled over for a traffic violation and cannot provide a valid driver's license, officers will ask for identification. If you cannot provide any government-issued ID, the officer may detain you while they verify your identity and immigration status. Texas does not issue driver's licenses to undocumented immigrants, which means undocumented individuals cannot legally drive in Texas. Driving without a license is a criminal offense, and if you're arrested for driving without a license, your fingerprints are taken and checked against federal databases. If you have prior deportations or immigration violations, ICE will be notified and may place a detainer on you. SB 4 also allows law enforcement officers to ask about immigration status during any lawful detention, which means even if you're a passenger in a vehicle that gets pulled over, officers can ask for your identification and immigration status. The law has created significant fear in immigrant communities because routine traffic stops have become pathways to detention and deportation. For mixed status families where some members are citizens or legal residents and others are undocumented, this creates impossible situations where family members are afraid to drive or even ride in vehicles for fear of encountering law enforcement. Number 10, vehicle impoundment laws allow police to seize your car for multiple violations. Texas Transportation Code Section 521.457 allows law enforcement to impound vehicles in certain circumstances, including when the driver is operating the vehicle without a valid license or with a suspended license. The impoundment is immediate, meaning your car is towed from the scene and you must pay all towing and storage fees to get it back. Towing fees in Texas typically range from $150 to $300, and storage fees run $25 to $75 per day. If you can't afford to pay these fees immediately, your vehicle remains impounded and the fees continue to accumulate daily. After a certain period, usually 30 days, the impound lot can sell your vehicle at auction to recover the fees. For many people, their vehicle is their second most valuable asset after their home, and losing it to impoundment can be financially devastating. Without a vehicle, getting to work becomes difficult or impossible, which leads to lost income and potential job loss. The situations that lead to impoundment are often related to poverty. You couldn't afford car insurance, so your license was suspended. You had to keep driving to get to work and you got pulled over. Your car was impounded and now you can't afford the fees to get it back. You lose your job because you can't get to work and you lose your car permanently. Texas law does provide a process for challenging impoundment, but it requires filing a motion with the court, attending a hearing, and proving that the impoundment was unlawful or that you've resolved the underlying issue. Most people don't know how to initiate this process and can't afford an attorney to help them. Vehicle impoundment also affects families because even if the vehicle is owned by someone else, such as a spouse or parent, if you're driving it without a valid license and get pulled over, the vehicle can still be impounded. The registered owner must then pay the fees to recover their own vehicle. If you've made it to the end of this breakdown, you now know what millions of Texas drivers don't. These laws aren't coming in the future. They're already here, they're being enforced every single day, and they're designed to extract money from people who can least afford it while creating legal traps that destroy lives. Whether you're worried about losing your license, facing thousands in fines, getting your car impounded, or dealing with immigration consequences, understanding Texas law is your only defense. Hit that like button if this video gave you information you needed. Subscribe to this channel because I break down Texas laws that directly affect your freedom and your wallet. Drop a comment and tell me, have you been hit with a Texas traffic penalty that seemed completely unfair? What happened? Share this video with every Texas driver you know because this information could save someone from disaster. Stay safe, stay informed, and I'll see you next time.